Two. So I just had a uh, very detailed and intense argument with somebody over the uh, the whole premise of R-rated comic book movies. He made the point that of course, Deadpool was a big, R-rated comic book movie. Um, I feel that it's so ridiculously overhyped how much of a big deal that is. Now, I have to, of course, start this off by saying I love Deadpool. I loved the movie. I thought it was perfect. It was just perfect for, you know, a first Deadpool movie. It was quite honestly dipping its toes into what Deadpool really is, and I think that's the perfect way to go. Dip your toes into it, but still at the same time give you a lot of what Deadpool is. So I think it was perfectly done. I don't think it could have been any better, really. The only criticism I could say about it was maybe get not so much of the lovey-dovey kind of stuff in there, but for the most part, it was fucking perfect. Um, so of course, I got to start off by saying that. But having said that, I feel like it's a lot of hype for being, I've seen a lot of people saying the first R-rated comic book movie, and that's just simply not the case. People tend to forget how many R-rated comic book movies there really are. Um, Start off with, uh, Daredevil. Now, I say that, and a lot of people are already probably going to switch off the video. Please hear me out. Daredevil had a director's cut that was R rated. Was the movie good? No, of course not. I'm not stupid. The movie was terrible. It was horseshit. But there was an R rated Marvel movie. Not just that one. Blade 1, 2, and 3. Um, Punisher. Punisher 1 and Punisher Warzone. Uh, Go back and there was a 1991 there was another Punisher movie that was also R-rated, uh, featuring Dolph Lundgren as the Punisher. I thought that was pretty neat. Um, The Crow. You've got Watchmen. There's so many. Judge Dredd and Dredd. Just a fuck ton of R-rated comic book movies that I feel don't get the credit they deserve for being an R-rated comic book movie. This is something that is, in my opinion, one of the most overlooked things. People just tend to like say, "Well, that's a blockbuster." So, of course, that's, that one gets the praise and that one gets the credit of being an R-rated comic book movie. So, let's go back and let's think. What can we say about Deadpool being an R-rated comic book movie? Well, people I've heard say, well, that's the first Marvel R-rated comic book movie. That's not the case at all. Of course, like I said, in 1991, The Punisher with Dolph Lundgren. But then you also look at Blade 1, 2, and 3, Punisher, Punisher Warzone. Those are R-rated comic book movies. Marvel. Then you could say, well, it's the first one since, comic book movies came into the mainstream. Now, of course, I feel that's not the case. Now, it also kind of depends on what you feel the R rated or the comic book movies becoming the mainstream when that started. Some people say, and I agree, this is to me when it became mainstream was in 2000 with X Men. When X Men came out, that's when it became more mainstream. Because, of course, from there you get Spider Man and then, Punisher, you get Daredevil, you get all kinds of stuff, you Ghost Rider and all that stuff. Um, Now that to me is what the mainstream was, and then from there, of course, like I said, with Blade Trinity came out after that. We have, I believe, Blade 2 came out after X Men. So you have those Marvel R-rated movies, of course, Punisher and Punisher Warzone, Marvel R-rated movies. So then you got to think, well, this is the first comic book movie to be R rated since it came into the mainstream, which is when Iron Man came out. When the MCU started, that's when it was in the mainstream, and that kicked off with Iron Man. So, okay, let's think about that. What huge blockbuster movie came out after Iron Man that was a comic book movie and was R rated, Watchmen. Watchmen was a great movie. In my opinion, was a fantastic movie and probably one of the probably the best movie Zack Snyder has made, in my opinion. Um, but that is an R-rated comic book movie, and that's an R-rated comic book movie that gets overlooked. That came out after Iron Man, when comic book movies were in the mainstream. So pretty much the only thing you can say about Deadpool being an R-rated comic book movie is it was the first R-rated comic book movie in the Marvel universe, or Marvel, that came out since the MCU started. And even then, it's not Marvel per se. It's a Marvel character, it's a Marvel story, but it's made by Fox. So even still, it's not the Marvel MCU. It's its own separate thing. That's Fox. That's X-Men's universe. So what can we say about that? Now, of course, the movie's great and the movie's fantastic, but for so long it's been pushed into everybody's faces that this is, an R-rated comic book movie, and they're breaking new ground with that. And that's not the case. That's actually doing something that's been done for a long time. People just seem to overlook that, and people just seem to not really care. And I feel like ever since Deadpool, or even the talks of Deadpool being R-rated, that's when everyone really started paying attention to that rating system. Because then on, it's like Batman v Superman being R rated with the director's cut or the extended edition, Logan being R rated, the Killing Joke being R rated, and there's so much now that's becoming R rated. Another R rated movie was The Kingsman, and a lot of people don't realize that's actually based on a comic book. That is a comic book movie. So, in short, I loved Deadpool. This is, again, not me saying Deadpool was bad. I just feel that it's very unjust to praise it for doing something that so many other people have done before. Um, that's about it. I mean, this is something that it blows my mind how people argue this with me, and they completely just forget about all the other stuff that's come out. Um, Having said that, I feel this is probably one of the ones that did it the best. Blade 2, I loved, and I've done a video on the fact how much I love those movies, especially since they're so shit on by Rotten Tomatoes. It blows my mind how, like, shittily rated they are, and I just made up a word, but, whatever. Um, but Deadpool, I keep saying Daredevil, and I've got it on my mind because I'm rewatching the series. Um, which is great, by the way. The Netflix Daredevil series is fantastic. The Deadpool movie gets a lot of praise for being the first R-rated comic book movie, and that's not the case. However, I feel it is the first to really make it right. With Blade, it's like, okay, it's R-rated, but it's R-rated because a couple F words are thrown in around. I feel that that character can survive without that. The blood and all that gore and stuff, that makes sense, but I feel they used, the word fuck thrown in there a few times just to push it over into the R rated scene. And there's a lot of stuff that did that. With Watchmen, they didn't have to show genitalia in your face. That's just added extra. And on top of that, a lot of the gore was actually cut out of the movie. So it didn't have to be as bad as it was. Now, did it service the movie? Sure. But it didn't have to be that. Deadpool, I feel, was the one that made it perfectly, in the sense that that character pretty much derives itself from the fact that it's an R rated, or that it's I've said that very weird, and I'm sorry. The movie itself had to be R rated in order to say Deadpool is right. The Deadpool character was done right. Um, because I mean, of course, we all, even if you're not a big fan of the comics, I'm sure a lot of you know Deadpool, from video games like Marvel vs. Capcom, that stuff, and then all the memes and stuff on the internet. And we've seen him so many times in social media, so of course he's a known character. Um, but he's known for being outside of his comic, and that's kind of, it's kind of funny, and it's kind of ironic considering the fact that that is his character. how he lives on a separate plane than what his comic book story. So it's like he lives on the other side of the fourth wall. He doesn't just break the fourth wall. He lives on the other side of it. You know, he's an outsider looking in, living within, looking out. It's weird. It's a very weird concept, and it's hard to explain. However, it's funny to me that he's so well known outside of the comic books and in the social media, and to know that his character is pretty much everything you see, every meme, every gif or gif, however you want to pronounce it. That's a whole nother topic right there. Um, it's all just him. That's one character. It's not just a bunch of images of that character. It's just him doing that stuff. That's funny to me. Um, so this movie itself had to be R rated. And I feel that that's the one comic book movie that did the R rating for a reason. They didn't just do it just to have the R rating. They didn't have to go above and beyond to get the R rating. They just had to make a Deadpool movie. And it ends up being R rated because it's an R rated character. So, it's not the first. It's not the first in this long. It's not the first since this happened. But it's the first to do it perfectly. It's not the first to do it right, because of course Watchmen, of course, Blade, The Crow, all that. It was done right, Dredd and Judge Dredd, those were all done right. But the R rating serviced the movie so well that it doesn't just deserve it, it needed that. So let me know what you guys think. This is just a rant. It had nothing to do with anything, no news. It's just I've been having this argument with people for a long time, so this is just my rant about it. Um, Again, I'm not. This is not me trashing Deadpool. It's not me trashing Marvel. It's not me trashing R-rated movies. Nothing. It's just the fact that I got really upset, considering the fact that there's a lot of R-rated comic book movies that I really love that don't get the praise that they deserve for being that ballsy to do. And I feel like it's even more ballsy to do it before they became mainstream. It was more ballsy for The Crow to be R rated before comic book movies hit the mainstream. Just in my opinion, especially with The Crow, considering it's such a small character within the giant world of comics. Now, of course, if you're a fan of it, you might not think so, but you say Batman, everybody knows Batman. You say The Crow, not everybody knows The Crow, unless they watch the movie. So, no, it's not the first. No, it's not the first in a certain amount of time, but it is the first to do it right, and it needed that rating. So, again, let me know what you guys think. Leave it in the comments. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? Or is there an R rated comic book movie that you really love that doesn't get the, the notice that it deserves? Please leave a like and subscribe, and I will keep you guys updated on anything new. And if I have a rant, just put it up here. And, I will see you guys later.